Hi guys, this is Jason from XL Performance. Today's theme is squat heavy and run fast. So that means improving your squat, and that will improve your ability to run fast. Now the reason why this works is because when you run, you put a certain amount of foot pressure into the ground, and that will determine how fast you run. That and along with your technique. Now I'm gonna just quickly go ahead and say technique is extremely important, and I'm not by any means downing how important that is. It's just that I'm not qualified to talk about it, so I'm not, because I'm just not a sprint coach. But what I am qualified to do is to get you strong and have you run faster as a result of that. Now how we can actually do this is, like I just mentioned, putting any amount of force into the ground will actually determine how fast you'll kind of end up running. Now, if we have you say, the way that we actually go about doing this is improving your strength. Now, if you were to deadlift and we had you deadlifting 100 kilos, now if we had you deadlifting 100 kilos, it takes over 100 kilos in order to get the 100 kilos to lift off the ground. Now this is important because all we've done is say we've put more than 100 kilos worth of force into the ground to be able to pull the bar off the ground. Now if you maxed out and your max lift was 100 kilos, and then we improved your 1 rep max and we brought it up to 120 kilos. Now what this means for you is that your ability to produce more force is now improved. That's all it is. It's just you were 100, now you're 120. So your force development is just that much more. Now what this means for you is that your body's ability to produce force is greater, so the amount of force you can actually put into the ground is now greater, therefore you'll be able to run faster. So that's simply it. And the most effective way to do this is actually by improving your squat. The deadlift is helpful, I would say. So it would be a few other lifts, but by far, I think I think there's not really any argument. The squat's probably king in this regard. Now, the thing we want to be doing with our squat is, yes, like we need to be able to squat really well to begin with. Just saying, if you're not squatting, you've got to start squatting, get really proficient at the movement, and then what we're going to look to do is we're actually going to look to improve the amount that you can actually squat. So the way we go about it at XL is we already have some guys who are really good at squatting, so let's just put that out there first. And then what we do is we have them doing dynamic day. So dynamic day for us is usually the first day of the week. So our guys will come in and they will put usually between 55 and 60% of their 1 rep max, or 75 and 85% of their 1 rep max. And what they do is they put that on the bar, and their goal is to be able to squat as fast as possible. And now we're trying to move, say, 75% of our max like it's 100% of our max. Now what this is going to do is we're going to force more of our muscle fibers to work than what is really necessary. It doesn't quite work like this, but say for example, this is probably just a way to kind of help understand what's going on. Say if in order for us to lift 75% of our 1 rep max, we have 75% of our muscle actually doing the work to actually push the weight up. Now, but if we got 75% of our 1 rep max on our back and we're squatting it, instead of using 75% of our muscle fibers to do that, what we're going to do is we're going to push it like 100, and we're going to get pretty close to 100% of our muscle fibers actually working to do that. Now that's one thing that's actually happening, so we're getting more muscles working. The other thing that actually happens here is that we're actually changing the muscle fibers a little bit. Instead of just being slow moving muscles, that we actually get them moving fast. And we actually, by moving fast is how we get the muscle fibers to change over time. So that's one thing, because in order to move weight, we need to be able to produce more force. And lifting between 75 and 85% of our 1 rep max, that is producing more force than lifting less or more weight, because when it's too heavy, we're not moving it fast enough, and that's not producing enough force. Now, if we're moving really lightweight and we're moving extremely fast, we're not producing much force, because we're moving it fast, but we're not moving enough weight to produce force. So that's why we use those weights, right? So firstly, find out what your 1 rep max is, and the way we do that is by loading up a bar with something relatively light. We squat that feels good. We go up, we squat that feels good, and we just keep going until we feel like we've just about hit our limit. I would recommend, if you're going to do that, grab a spotter. Get your mate to give you a hand, or pull out safety racks in order to do that. Don't do it by yourself. It can be kind of dangerous if you're a bit of a novice lifter. Okay, more of an experienced lifter will be able to sort of do this sort of stuff, and they know how to be safe while doing max effort testing. So so basically, to improve your squat strength, what we do a few things. So we work on the size of the muscle, so we improve the size of the muscle, as well as doing that first thing that we talked about, which is on dynamic day, which is actually trying to get you to move fast. Now, the next step for us is actually trying to improve the size of the muscle, which will happen sometime during the week, usually couple days after dynamic day, and then a couple days after that we look at doing max effort day. And so we've got force development happening, we've got muscle size building, and then we've got max effort testing, which is the most efficient way to improve your strength. So those are the ways we actually look at improving the squat. Now, the reason we can't just stay at the one squat and just be happy trying to move that fast is that we need to improve our squat, because as I mentioned, like if you're moving 100 kilos and that's your max, we know we can't produce any more force than that. So if we can actually improve our squat, then our force development goes up. Improve the squat, force development goes up. Improve the squat, force development goes up, and it keeps happening like that. And that's how we can actually produce more force and run faster or jump higher or whatever you might look at kind of doing that. Even throwing or punching, it comes down to the amount of force you can develop. So that's how we go about it at XL Performance. Now, that's kind of like the bread and butter for our programming, and that's how we go about that's how a lot of our athletes' performances improve, is just by the amount of force we can get them to generate. It just vastly improves, and on a pretty regular basis as well. So if you want any more sort of tips on how to do this, I was a little bit vague on a lot of stuff, and mostly just because I can't really think of any of the questions you might have to ask right now. So if you've got any questions, just ask me, and I'm definitely open to sort of sharing whatever knowledge I have. So just DM us on Facebook or Instagram or YouTube, wherever you see this video, and I'll get back to you as soon as possible. Thanks for listening, guys.